All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a truly fascinating paradigm shift tucked inside an incredibly ancient tradition. We're looking at Khao Phansa, which you probably know as Buddhist Lent. Now, on the surface, you know the drill, right? It's widely understood as this 3-month period where monks retreat to their temples during the rainy season. But the source material we're diving into today, which summarizes the really profound teachings of the revered Fra Dhammako Sajarn, also known as Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, well, it reveals a framework that is so much deeper. It actually transforms what was basically just a geographical, weather-based limitation into this timeless blueprint for human development. So whether you're already deeply immersed in Buddhist philosophy, or you're just kind of fascinated by how ancient systems can still apply to our crazy modern lives, this structured progression we're going to look at today is absolutely going to give you a fresh perspective. It's all about turning restrictions into literal boundless opportunities.
Okay, so let's start by contrasting the historical origins of this whole practice with our modern reality. Picture this. Over 2.5 millennia ago, in ancient northern India, the Buddha mandated that monks essentially stay put in one place for 3 months. And the reason? It was incredibly practical. During those intense monsoon rains, traveling monks were accidentally trampling the crops that local farmers had just planted. I mean, it was a physical restriction based entirely on the local climate, agricultural survival, and frankly, just trying to avoid stomping through the mud and ruining the harvest. But look at us today. Buddhism is spread across the entire globe. We've got airplanes, we've got paved highways, totally different climate zones, and completely opposite seasons depending on which hemisphere you're standing in. That original, highly practical restriction of simply not stepping on the crops just doesn't apply in the exact same way to a practitioner living in, say, modern-day New York, London, or Sydney.
Which naturally brings us to this amazing global puzzle. Think about it. If the seasons are completely different depending on your continent and physical travel isn't really restricted by muddy dirt roads anymore, why do Buddhists worldwide still enter this period of Lent at the exact same time? Like, why lock into a localized weather rule from ancient India if you happen to live in a place where it's the middle of a freezing, dry winter? This is the core question our source text really wants us to chew on, and the answer is actually pretty beautiful. The physical restriction was never the ultimate end goal. It was just the catalyst. This simultaneous global observance isn't about waiting for the rain to stop anymore. It's about syncing up with a shared, universal period of highly focused internal work.
When we actually shift our perspective on this, we can see the absolute genius in the design. What started as this very physical limitation, a mandate to just stay put, was actually engineered as a vehicle for a much, much greater opportunity. By removing the constant distraction of travel and external movement, the mind is finally given the space to turn inward. The source text really hammers home that this restriction became a perfect condition to do something incredibly important, which is deep mental cultivation. Honestly, it's a classic, brilliant example of constraint breeding innovation. By locking down the physical body to a single location, you unlock the boundless potential of the mind. It's basically the ancient equivalent of a highly focused deep work retreat.
So what does this mental cultivation actually look like in practice? Well, the source text uses the term bhavana, which we can break down into 3 distinct, super actionable steps for mental and spiritual growth. Step 1 is all about creation. It's about taking a hard look, identifying the positive qualities, focus, or peace that you currently lack, and actively bringing them into existence. Step 2 is to nurture what is already there. So if you already have certain positive traits or good habits, you don't just let them sit idle on autopilot, you actively cultivate them so they grow even stronger. And finally, step 3 is to elevate yourself continuously. This isn't just some one-time check-the-box achievement, it is a serious, ongoing commitment to leveling up your internal state. Seeing this structured progression really shows exactly how a 3-month physical pause can be totally maximized for ultimate personal efficiency and growth.
And that brings us to another really profound philosophical concept mentioned in the text, which is brahmacharya. Now, if you do a quick web search on this term right now, you'll almost always find it translated simply as celibacy or chastity, and it's usually associated exclusively with monks living in a monastery. But the text we're analyzing today, which is based directly on Buddhadasa Bhikkhu's teachings, it completely challenges that narrow interpretation. It actually asks us to fundamentally redefine our entire understanding of what this concept truly means in real-world practice. It moves way past those common misunderstandings to reveal a framework of behavior that is honestly far more expansive and a lot more demanding than just a single physical restriction.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true core of the teaching. Brahmacharya is absolutely not restricted just to those without a family, meaning it's not just for those outside of a normal householder's life. Instead, it is defined as continuous, steadfast good conduct. I want you to just think about the incredible weight of those words for a second. Continuous and steadfast. It's not about being, perfectly well behaved for a few hours while you're meditating on a cushion. It's about maintaining a rigorous standard of ethical and positive conduct in every single interaction, day in and day out. By redefining it this way, the source material makes it crystal clear that this high level of practice is a universal call to action. It applies to every single person, completely regardless of their living situation.
And guys, this is exactly why the observance of Khao Phansa is a truly universal practice today, because the core essence is this internal cultivation, the bhavana, and the brahmacharya. There's absolutely no need to adjust the dates to match your local rainy season. It applies across all continents and all time zones, all at the exact same time. Furthermore, the text explicitly points out that this is designed for both monks, the bhikkhus, and the laypeople, the everyday householders. By observing this exact timing according to the original Buddhist mandate together, practitioners across the entire globe create this unified, universal spiritual anchor. It completely transcends its origins as a weather dependency and becomes a globally synchronized period of self-improvement. It's just a massive, worldwide shared experience.
Which really perfectly sets up this powerful conclusion presented in the source material by Yawd Mon Tai when summarizing the teachings of Buddhadasa Bhikkhu for Lent. The quote is, "Practicing bhavana and brahmacharya according to the teachings is one of the best opportunities a human being can have." Notice the phrasing there. It doesn't frame this 3-month period as a chore or a heavy duty or some restrictive religious obligation. It frames it as the ultimate opportunity. Taking the actual time to structure your mind to intentionally create positive qualities, to nurture them, and to maintain steadfast good conduct. It is presented as literally the highest privilege of the human experience. That is a huge, profound shift in how we typically view discipline and dedicated practice.
So, that leaves us with one final big question. We've seen how an ancient rule about not traveling in the muddy rain evolved into this perfectly structured, globally synchronized masterclass in mental cultivation and steadfast good conduct. It doesn't matter what continent you're on, and it doesn't matter whether you are sitting in a quiet monastery or working in a loud corporate office. The framework is there, and the timing is set. So looking at your own life right now, with all of its modern complexities and lack of boundaries, how are you going to use this universal opportunity to cultivate your own continuous good conduct? What is the one positive quality you need to create, nurture, and elevate today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive sparks some incredible, continuous growth in your own life. Catch you next time.